Stop 8 on the North Terrace Geological Trail is the perimeter fence of Government House between King William Road and Kintore Avenue. It was built in 1850 from a stone called calcrete, which is a type of limestone that forms in the soil in dry environments like South Australia. The stone was taken from a quarry not far from here. The original quarry was closed in 1855 and now forms part of the parklands that surround Adelaide. The calcrete is found in the soil in the drier farming areas all across southern Australia, where it's often referred to as paddock stone and gets used as a construction material. So let's go over to Yorke Peninsula to see how this unusual rock forms and how it gets put to use by the local farmers. Paddock stone, or calcrete, develops just beneath the soil profile in places like this, where it's cool and wet in winter and hot and dry in summer. During the winter, rainwater percolates down through the soil and saturates the bedrock below and dissolves calcium from the rock. During the summer, when it's hot and dry, that groundwater gets drawn up through the soil profile by capillary action as the water evaporates at the surface. That water coming up through the soil carries the calcium from the bedrock below, and it reprecipitates around pieces of gravel and other small fragments in the soil. Even tree roots can get fossilised in that process. And that's what you can see here. All these rounded nodule-like things are basically small pieces of gravel that have been growing because calcium carbonate has been precipitating around them. I've got a piece here that I've broken open, and you can see some of those small pieces of gravel in there, and now it's become one solid lump. Those conditions of cool, wet winter and hot, dry summer are also ideal for growing wheat. And in fact, you find paddock stone over almost all of the wheat growing areas of Australia. That's most of the southern half of South Australia and Western Australia, and some parts of Victoria and New South Wales. But having a whole lot of rounded rocks in the soil isn't great for farming machinery. So most of the farmers used to collect the rocks and move them to the side of the paddock. And in the classic use whatever you have at hand philosophy of farmers, they would use that rock to build fences and houses and occasionally other things like that water tank over there. The rounded, irregular shapes of the calcrete nodules aren't exactly ideal for dry stone construction, but they break fairly easily, and with a little bit of work and some careful placement, they can make a very neat wall that'll last a lifetime. And with a little bit of mortar, they can be used to make a good freestanding wall, like a house or this tank here, or the wall we see today along the side of North Terrace. There were once hundreds of kilometres of paddock stone walls crisscrossing the wheat and sheep farms of South Australia. They represented millions of hours of backbreaking work collecting the stone from the fields and stacking it neatly into dry stone walls. In the early days of South Australian farming, the abundant supply of paddock stone and the need to clear it from fields before ploughing made it the obvious choice for a fencing material. The paddock stone walls were also completely fireproof, which was a big advantage over wooden posts in a state where bushfires are a threat every summer. But as steel fencing materials became widely available and labour more expensive, the stone walls were progressively replaced by wire fences. They were much faster to construct, less expensive to maintain, and could be built anywhere regardless of the supply of stone. In some areas, existing stone walls were extended with wire tops, but most have now fallen into disrepair or been crushed for road base. Fortunately, there are a few farmers with a passion for history who've maintained their paddock stone walls to preserve these beautiful monuments to the extraordinary work and skills of the men and women who tilled the soil before them.